Arsenal Daily Talk. Breaking. Fabrizio Romano drops bombshell on Arsenal's January plans. Hello Gooners and welcome back to Arsenal Daily Talk. If you thought the January transfer window was going to be quiet, think again, because what I'm about to tell you will completely change how you view Arsenal's plans for the second half of the season. We are now entering one of the most critical periods in Arsenal's campaign. We're top of the league, competing on four fronts, but behind the scenes there is a situation developing that could define whether we lift silverware in May or fall short once again. And today, I've got exclusive information that ties everything together: our defensive crisis, our transfer targets, and the future of one of our most promising young stars. Fabrizio Romano has been dropping hints. Our sporting director Berta has been watching very carefully. And Mikel Arteta is facing decisions that could make or break our season. We're talking about a defensive injury crisis that has left us with just one defender on the bench. We're talking about a January transfer target who refused to celebrate against us and didn't take a penalty in a shootout. And we're talking about a 19-year-old England international that clubs are desperate to sign, but Arsenal are refusing to let go. This is not just transfer gossip. This is about Arsenal's philosophy, our ambitions, and the calculated risks we're taking in pursuit of glory. So make sure you stay with me until the very end, because by the time we're done, you'll understand exactly what Arsenal are planning, why certain decisions are being made, and what it all means for our trophy chances this season. Trust me, you do not want to miss a single word of what's coming. Let's dive straight in. Arsenal Daily Talk. Defensive crisis sparks January transfer window urgency. Hello Arsenal fans and welcome back to Arsenal Daily Talk. Today we have got some really important news to discuss about our defensive situation and what it could mean for the January transfer window. This is a story that every Gunners fan needs to hear because it affects our chances for the rest of the season. So make sure you stay with me until the end because we are going to break down everything you need to know. Let me start by setting the scene. Arsenal just played Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup at the Emirates Stadium on Tuesday night. Now, the good news is that we won the match and we are progressing in the competition. Mikel Arteta made 8 changes to the starting lineup, which shows the squad depth we have been building. Most of the players who came into the team performed really well, which is encouraging for the manager. When you look at the bench that night, it was incredibly strong in attacking areas. We had Bukayo Saka available. We had Martin Odegaard ready to come on if needed. We even had Victor Gyökeres sitting there as an option. That is the kind of attacking depth that title-challenging teams need to have. But here is where the story takes a concerning turn, and this is what I really want you to pay attention to. While our attacking options looked fantastic, there was a glaring problem with our defensive depth. And this is not just any small issue. This is something that Berta, our sporting director, absolutely must have noticed when he looked at that team sheet. The defensive situation on our bench was frankly alarming, and it tells us everything we need to know about what needs to happen in January. Let me paint the picture for you. Against Crystal Palace, Arsenal had just one defender sitting on the bench. Just one. And that defender was 16-year-old Marley Salmon. Now, Marley is a talented young prospect, and we are all excited about his future. But having a 16-year-old as your only defensive cover in a cup match shows you just how stretched we are at the back right now. Why was this the case? Well, we are dealing with what can only be described as a defensive injury crisis. And I am not exaggerating when I use that term. Let me run through the list of defenders who were unavailable for this Palace match. Gabriel Magalhaes was out injured. Ben White was out injured. Christian Mosquera was out injured. And Piero Hincapié was out injured. That is 4 senior defenders all unavailable at the same time. Think about that for a moment. 4 experienced, quality defenders all sitting in the treatment room while we are trying to compete on multiple fronts. This is not sustainable. Not even close to sustainable. And here is why this situation is so dangerous. Imagine for a second that one of our starting defenders had picked up an injury during that Crystal Palace match. What would have happened? We would have had 2 options, and neither of them are ideal. Option 1 would have been bringing on 16-year-old Marley Salmon to play in a senior competitive match. Option 2 would have been asking Christian Norgard to drop back from midfield into defense. Now, Norgard is a quality midfielder. We all rate him highly. But he is not a natural defender. Asking him to play out of position in a crucial match is not the kind of situation a title-challenging team wants to find itself in. And asking a 16-year-old to come on in a high-pressure cup match is also far from ideal. This is exactly the kind of situation that Berta would have been watching very carefully. As the sporting director, it is his job to identify weaknesses in the squad and address them. And this defensive crisis is impossible to miss. You can bet that he has already been having serious conversations with Mikel Arteta about what needs to happen in the January transfer window. But before we talk about potential solutions, let me give you some context about why this defensive crisis is even more remarkable. Arsenal have had the best defense in the Premier League in each of the last 2 seasons. That is back-to-back seasons of being the tightest defense in English football. And guess what? We are doing it again this season. The Gunners have conceded only 10 goals in 17 league games so far this campaign. That is an incredible record. We have also conceded just 1 goal in each of our 9 Champions League and Carabao Cup fixtures combined. So we are talking about 1 goal conceded in 9 European and domestic cup matches. Those numbers are genuinely world-class. Now, those statistics are impressive on their own. Any team in Europe would be proud of those defensive numbers. But when you consider that we have achieved this while dealing with this defensive injury crisis, it becomes even more remarkable. We are maintaining elite defensive standards despite having 4 senior defenders unavailable. That speaks volumes about the quality of the players who are fit and the coaching staff's ability to organize the team. But here is the reality that Berta and Mikel Arteta both understand. We cannot keep relying on good fortune. We cannot keep hoping that the defenders who are fit stay fit. We cannot keep asking our defense to hold up under this kind of pressure. Sooner or later, something has to give. And when you are competing for the Premier League title and trying to go deep in the Champions League, you cannot afford to take those kinds of risks. This brings us to the big question. What should Arsenal do in the January transfer window? Well, the article makes a very clear suggestion, and I think it is one that makes a lot of sense. Arsenal should make a move for Marc Guehi. Now, let me tell you why this transfer target makes so much sense. First of all, Arsenal got a very close look at Marc Guehi during that Carabao Cup match. And he showed everyone exactly what he is capable of. The Crystal Palace defender was mostly excellent at the back throughout the match. He was reading the game well, making important tackles, organizing his defensive line. Everything you want to see from a top-quality centre-back. But it gets even more interesting. Guehi actually scored the equalizer against us. He got on the score sheet to take the game to a penalty shootout. Now, obviously as Arsenal fans, we were not thrilled about conceding that goal. But you have to respect the quality of the player. Here is a defender who is not only solid at the back, but also contributes in attack. That is exactly the kind of modern centre-back that fits perfectly into Mikel Arteta's system. And here is where things get really fascinating. Arsenal fans are convinced that Guehi is ready to join the Gunners. Why? Well, there were some very telling signs during and after that match. Guehi did not celebrate his goal against Arsenal. Think about that. He scores an equalizer for his team in a cup match and he does not celebrate. That is not normal behavior unless there is something else going on. It gets better. Guehi did not take a penalty in the shootout. Again, that is unusual for a senior player and especially for someone who had just scored. Why would you not step up if you are confident? The speculation is that he did not want to be in a position where he might eliminate Arsenal from the competition. And there is more. Guehi was spotted chatting to several of his England international teammates who play for Arsenal. This happened when Mikel Arteta went over to shake his hand after the match. Now, players talk to each other all the time. That is normal. But the timing and the context make this interaction very interesting. It certainly looks like someone who is keeping his options open and maintaining good relationships with potential future teammates. Marc Guehi is 25 years old. That is a perfect age for a centre-back. He is experienced enough to make an immediate impact, but young enough that he has his best years ahead of him. He is proven in the Premier League. He is an England international. He knows what it takes to compete at the highest level. This is not some gamble on potential. This is a player who is already performing at an elite level. But here is where the transfer opportunity gets really interesting from Arsenal's perspective. Guehi will enter the final 6 months of his contract in January. Let me explain why that is so important. When a player gets into the final 6 months of their contract, they can start negotiating with other clubs. The selling club loses a huge amount of leverage. And most importantly, it represents the last opportunity for Crystal Palace to make some money from his sale. Think about Crystal Palace's situation. They have a top-quality defender who is entering the prime years of his career. He is exactly the kind of player that big clubs want to sign. But his contract is running down. If they do not sell him in January, they risk losing him for nothing in the summer when his contract expires. That would be a disaster for them financially. So Palace are going to be under pressure to sell in January if a good offer comes in. And Arsenal should absolutely take advantage of that situation. We need defensive reinforcements. Guehi is available. The price should be reasonable because of the contract situation. Everything lines up for this transfer to happen. Now, let me talk about why Guehi would fit perfectly into this Arsenal team. He is up there with the best defenders in the Premier League. That is not me being biased or exaggerating. If you watch him play regularly, you can see that he has all the attributes you want in a modern centre-back. He is comfortable on the ball, which is crucial for playing in Arteta's system. He can step forward and carry the ball out of defense. He is good in the air. He reads the game well. And as we saw against Arsenal, he can contribute goals from set pieces. Arsenal play a very specific style of football. We build from the back. We need our defenders to be technically excellent with the ball at their feet. We need them to be able to play passes through the lines. We need them to be calm under pressure when teams press us high. Guehi ticks all of those boxes. He would not need time to adapt to our style of play. He could come in and make an immediate impact. And let me talk about the leadership aspect. Arsenal have got great leaders in the dressing room. But you can never have too many leaders, especially in defense. Guehi is the kind of character who organizes those around him. He communicates constantly. He takes responsibility. Those are exactly the qualities you need when you are trying to win major trophies. I also want to address the financial aspect of this potential transfer. In normal circumstances, a player of Guehi's quality would cost a fortune. We are talking about an England international centre-back who is performing at the highest level week in week out. That would normally be a £50 million plus signing. But because of the contract situation, Arsenal could potentially get him for significantly less. Maybe £30 million. Maybe even £25 million if Palace are desperate to avoid losing him for free. That would represent incredible value for money. And in today's market, finding value is so important. We have seen teams spend crazy amounts of money on defenders who do not work out. But Guehi is a known quantity. There is no risk here. We know exactly what we would be getting. And we would be getting it at a price that makes sense. Let me bring this all together for you. Arsenal are in a defensive injury crisis right now. We had just one defender on the bench against Crystal Palace, and that was a 16-year-old. We have 4 senior defenders currently injured. This situation is not sustainable if we want to compete for major trophies. Berta, our sporting director, will have absolutely noticed this problem. He will want to strengthen the defensive area of the squad in the January transfer window. Marc Guehi represents the perfect solution. He is a top-quality defender who is available. He fits our system. He is the right age. He has Premier League and international experience. And most importantly, the financial situation with his contract means we can potentially sign him for a reasonable fee. Arsenal fans are already excited about the possibility after seeing how he performed against us and how he behaved after the match. The January transfer window is always tricky. Clubs do not want to sell their best players halfway through the season. Prices are often inflated. But this Guehi situation is different. Crystal Palace are backed into a corner by the contract situation. They need to sell or risk losing him for nothing. Arsenal need defensive reinforcements urgently. This is the kind of transfer that makes sense for everyone involved. So that is the situation Arsenal find themselves in right now. We have got a defensive crisis that needs addressing. We have got a clear target who would solve multiple problems. And we have got a transfer opportunity that might not come around again. Berta needs to act decisively in January. The squad depth at the back needs to be improved. And Marc Guehi could be the perfect signing to take us to the next level. Thank you so much for watching Arsenal Daily Talk. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest Arsenal news and analysis. Let me know in the comments what you think about this Marc Guehi transfer situation. Do you think Arsenal should go for him in January? What other defenders should we be looking at? I love reading your comments and having these discussions with you. Until next time, keep supporting the Arsenal and I will see you in the next video. Arsenal Daily Talk, the Miles Lewis-Skelly situation. Hello Gooners and welcome back to Arsenal Daily Talk. Today we are diving deep into a story that has been making waves around the Emirates. It is about one of our most promising young talents, Miles Lewis-Skelly, and Arsenal's stance on his future this January. This is a story that tells us a lot about how Mikel Arteta views squad depth, how the club is planning for the second half of the season, and what it means for our title challenge. So stick with me until the end because there are some really interesting points to discuss here. Let me start by setting the scene. We are now in late December, the festive period is upon us, and the January transfer window is just around the corner. This is traditionally a time when clubs start to make moves, when players who are not getting enough game time start to look for opportunities elsewhere, and when managers assess their squads to see what they need for the crucial second half of the season. And right in the middle of all this, we have the situation with Miles Lewis-Skelly. Now, for those who might not be fully up to speed, Lewis-Skelly is a 19-year-old defender who has been part of our first team setup. He signed a new contract during the summer, which showed that the club has faith in him for the long term. But here is the thing. Despite that new contract, despite the faith the club has shown in him, he is still yet to start a match in the Premier League this season. Think about that for a moment. A young player, full of potential, who has penned a new deal, but who has not been given a single Premier League start. If you are Lewis-Skelly, you must be feeling frustrated. If you are his agent, you are probably fielding calls from other clubs who want to take him on loan or even sign him permanently. And if you are a fan, you might be wondering why we are keeping a player who is not playing. But here is where it gets really interesting. According to the information we have, Arsenal will not consider offers for Miles Lewis-Skelly during the January transfer window. Not loan offers, not permanent offers, nothing. The club has drawn a line in the sand and said he is going nowhere. Now, let me tell you why this is significant. Lewis-Skelly is an England international. Yes, you heard that right. He has already represented his country at senior level. And according to the article, England manager Thomas Tuchel has told him that he needs regular minutes if he is going to force his way into the Germans' World Cup squad. The World Cup is coming up, and for any young player, that is the dream. That is the pinnacle. That is what you work for your entire career. So here we have a situation where the England manager is essentially saying to Lewis-Skelly, you need to be playing more football if you want to be part of my plans. And yet, Arsenal are saying, we are not letting you go anywhere. On the surface, that might seem contradictory. It might even seem unfair to the player. But when you dig deeper, you start to understand the logic behind Arsenal's thinking. Let me explain the current situation at left back for Arsenal. Right now, Riccardo Calafiori is the first choice. He is the man in possession of that position. Lewis-Skelly is second in command. He is the backup. He is the player who would step in if Calafiori gets injured or needs a rest. And while he might not be starting Premier League games right now, he is still considered a valuable member of Mikel Arteta's squad. And this is crucial. The article talks about how the games are now coming thick and fast for Arsenal. We are in that part of the season where fixtures pile up. We have got Premier League matches, we have got Champions League football, we have got the Carabao Cup, and soon we will have the FA Cup as well. It is relentless. And the past 2 seasons have provided living proof that injuries can quickly change the picture. Think back to those moments when we have been hit by injury crises. Think about how quickly a squad that looks deep and well-stocked can suddenly look thin and stretched. One injury here, another there, and suddenly you are scrambling for options. Arsenal know this better than anyone. They have lived through it. So the logic becomes clear. If Calafiori was to get injured tomorrow, who steps in? Lewis-Skelly would likely be drafted in as the Italian's replacement. Now, the article does mention that Piero Hincapié has also been utilized at full-back, so there is another option there. But the point is that Arsenal want to keep their options open. They want to have multiple players who can fill that position if needed. And here is something really important that should not be forgotten. Last season, Luis Skelly absolutely dazzled in both Champions League quarterfinals against Real Madrid. Let that sink in for a moment. Real Madrid, the biggest club in the world, the most successful team in Champions League history. And our 19-year-old left-back went toe-to-toe with them and impressed. That performance was not a one-off either. He also started both legs of the semi-final defeat to Paris Saint-Germain. These are the biggest stages in club football. These are the matches where legends are made. And Mikel Arteta trusted Luis Skelly in those moments. That tells you everything you need to know about how highly the manager rates him. There were even rumblings at the end of last season that Los Blancos, Real Madrid themselves, were eyeing a swoop for the team. When Real Madrid are interested in you, you know you are doing something right. That is the ultimate validation for any young player. So we have established that Luis Skelly has proven himself at the highest level. We know that Arteta trusts him. We know that he has the quality to compete in the biggest matches. The question then becomes, why is he not playing more in the Premier League this season? The answer is simple. Calafiori is in excellent form, and when you have a player performing well, you do not drop them just to give someone else game time. That is not how you win titles. You pick your best team for each match, and right now, Calafiori is the best option at left back. But that does not mean Luis Skelly is not important. It does not mean he is surplus to requirements. It just means he has to be patient. And there is confidence within Arsenal that more opportunities will soon follow. The club believes that as we get deeper into the season, as the fixtures pile up, Luis Skelly will get his chances. The Gunners will be juggling Premier League, Champions League, Carabao Cup and FA Cup football in 2026. That is 4 competitions. 4 different trophies to compete for. And you cannot do that with just 11 players. In fact, the article specifically mentions that Arsenal have 2 League Cup semi-final ties against Chelsea on the horizon. Semi-finals. Big matches. High stakes. And it is going to be a tall ask for the team to maintain form across all 4 competitions. This is where squad depth becomes absolutely crucial. This is where having players like Luis Skelly, players who can step in and perform at a high level, becomes the difference between winning trophies and falling short. So the message from Arsenal is clear. Even if clubs pick up the phone to inquire about Luis Skelly during January, they will be told under no uncertain terms that he is not available. The door is closed. The conversation is over before it begins. Arsenal are not interested in entertaining any offers, whether they are loan deals or permanent transfers. And you know what? I think this is absolutely the right decision. Let me tell you why. Arsenal know better than anyone that even if their squad looks bloated when every player is fit, every player is still required. This is not about having luxury options. This is not about stockpiling players for the sake of it. This is about being prepared for every eventuality. The article gives us some context here. There have been so many instances in recent times where Arsenal's numbers have quickly become depleted over the course of a couple of weeks. You can be sitting there at the start of December thinking you have plenty of options, and then by the middle of January, you are down to the bare bones. Injuries happen. That is football. That is the reality of playing at the highest level. And even now, as we speak, the squad is being stretched. Gabriel Magalhaes is absent. Christian Mosquera is absent. Ben White is absent. That is 3 defenders out of action. The club's backline is being stretched to its limits. This is exactly the kind of situation where having someone like Luis Skelly available becomes so important. And it gets worse. Hincapié, who I mentioned earlier as another option at fullback, also missed the Carabao Cup quarter-final penalty shootout triumph over Crystal Palace. That is a worry ahead of Saturday's clash with Brighton. The article says that Arteta was tight-lipped on the Ecuador international's condition following the victory, but he is believed to have picked up a shoulder problem in the opening exchanges of the win at Everton when he collided with Calafiori. So you can see how quickly things can change. One minute you have multiple options, the next minute you are desperately hoping players recover in time for the next match. This is why Arsenal are right to keep hold of Luis Skelly. This is why they are not entertaining any offers. Because they know that the moment they let him go, they will regret it. Now, let me address the elephant in the room. What about Louis Skelly himself? What about his desire to play regular football? What about Thomas Tuchel's advice that he needs minutes for the World Cup? These are valid concerns. No player wants to sit on the bench. No player wants to watch from the sidelines while their teammates are out there competing. But here is the thing. Sometimes, being at a big club means being patient. It means understanding that your time will come. It means trusting the process and believing in the manager's plan for you. And everything we know about Mikel Arteta suggests that he has a clear plan for Louis Skelly. He has already shown faith in him by playing him in those huge Champions League matches. He clearly sees him as a big part of the future. And let's be honest, if you are a young player, where would you rather be? Would you rather go out on loan to a mid-table club where you will play every week but not really develop or challenge yourself? Or would you rather stay at Arsenal, train with world-class players every day, learn from one of the best managers in the game, and be ready to step in when your opportunity comes in massive matches? I know which option I would choose. And I think if Louis Skelly is smart, if he takes the long-term view, he will see that staying at Arsenal is the best thing for his career. Yes, he might have to wait for his chances. Yes, he might not play as much as he would like right now. But when those chances come, and they will come, he will be ready. And he will be playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world, competing for the biggest trophies. The article also describes Arsenal as the league leaders. Think about that. We are top of the table. We are in pole position for the title. This is exactly where we want to be at this stage of the season. And part of the reason we are in this position is because we have depth. We have quality throughout the squad. We have players who can step in when needed. If we start selling or loaning out players just because they are not starting every week, we weaken ourselves. We reduce our options. We make ourselves more vulnerable to injuries and fatigue. And in a title race, that can be the difference between success and failure. You only have to look at previous seasons to see how crucial squad depth is in the run-in. So from Arsenal's perspective, this is a no-brainer. Keep Louis Skelly. Make sure he knows he is valued. Make sure he understands the plan. And when the opportunities come, give him his chance to shine. And based on what we have seen from him in those Champions League matches last season, there is every reason to believe he will take those chances. Let me also say this. The fact that clubs are interested in Louis Skelly, the fact that there would be offers for him in January, that is a testament to his quality. Teams do not come calling for players unless they see something special. So while it might be frustrating for him not to start Premier League games right now, he should take confidence from the fact that other clubs rate him highly. But more importantly, he should take confidence from the fact that Arsenal rate him highly too. Highly enough to turn down any offers. Highly enough to keep him as a key part of the squad. In conclusion, what can we take from all of this? I think there are several key points. First, Arsenal are absolutely right to keep hold of Miles Louis Skelly. In a season where we are competing on four fronts, where injuries are already causing problems, we need every quality player we have. Second, Louis Skelly should be patient and trust the process. His performances last season in the Champions League showed he has what it takes to succeed at the highest level. His time will come. Third, this shows that Mikel Arteta and the club are thinking long-term. They are not making short-term decisions that might weaken the squad. They are planning for sustained success. And finally, as fans, we should be excited about Louis Skelly's future. He is 19 years old. He is already an England international. He has already performed brilliantly in the Champions League. The sky is the limit for this young man. And the fact that he is staying at Arsenal, that he will continue to develop here, that he will get his opportunities in big matches, that is something we should all be happy about. So that is the Miles Louis Skelly situation as it stands going into January. Arsenal have made their position clear. He is not for sale. He is not available for loan. He is staying put. And in my opinion, that is exactly the right call. What do you think, Gooners? Let me know in the comments below. Do you agree with Arsenal's decision? Are you excited about Louis Skelly's future? Let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for watching Arsenal Daily Talk. If you enjoyed this analysis, Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. We will be back soon with more Arsenal news and analysis. Until then, keep the faith, and come on you Gunners!